If I tell you to think of a cult leader, you probably just envision some 40 to 50-year-old white man who speaks to God. Guys like Marshall Applewhite, Jim Jones, Charles Manson. If I ask you to envision cult members, you probably think of hippies like the Manson family and pretty much any notable cult during the 70s. You likely see them worshipping or venerating some guy or girl who claims to speak to God or maybe even is God. Maybe they know the way to get to God. Would you ever join a cult? 9 out of 10 of you guys watching, maybe even all of you, probably said that you never would. Cults are for idiots, naive idiots. Well, many people think this way. Many people have this idea that cults have a certain look to them and a certain way of being. These are the people that are most primed and most susceptible to cults. Funny thing is, guess how many current and past cult members would have said, "I'm not in a cult," if you asked them? Every single last one, right up until their mass drinking of the Kool-Aid in the case of Jim Jones. Now, what if I told you that there's currently a cult no one is talking about, founded and operated right here on YouTube, with over 1,000 confirmed members and over 100,000 disciples associated with it? A cult that's growing a militia, a dogmatic worldview, and has their own Bible and is led by a cunning megalomaniac right here on YouTube. A cult that draws stark and borderline scary comparisons to the deadly cult of Jim Jones known as the People's Temple. What if I told you this cult and its members are nothing like the people I described and you likely imagined?
Marquette Burton,
The saint.
and the sinner.
To preface this, when I call this group a cult, I literally mean it. Many people call Andrew Tate's fans a cult, but they're more akin to people in an MLM. I'll be drawing comparisons to different cults in this video, especially the People's Temple. The reason being, they're an apt comparison. I don't necessarily mean it's as big of a threat as the cults from the 70s were, but they're both extremely dangerous ideology-wise. Enter Marquette Burton, the saint and the sinner. Before we can get down to the members and the nature of this cult, and why it's actually something that requires our attention in the first place, we must know who the cult leader is. In my videos, I'm talking about bad guys most of the time. I find them most interesting to review, but I like to keep things in perspective and I like to bring up redeeming qualities whenever I can. In this case, however, I'll be trying to actively keep this to a minimum. Not because I think he's worse than anyone I've covered or will cover, although there is an argument to be made that he is. As you watch this video, you'll definitely see why. The reason is, the nature of a cult is for the leader to have many qualities that are good. Thing is, they're all self-serving and for the cult leader's gain. The reference I'll be using most during these videos, like I said, is Jim Jones and his cult. They're just so strikingly similar. It makes no sense for me to talk about how Jim was charismatic and at times compassionate, funny, charitable to his members, etc. because at the end of the day, it was for power and influence. That was the whole point. He was all of these things to control and exploit his followers, and it culminated in the destruction of 918 people, either being bodied by the militia he created or through drinking poison Kool-Aid. Similarly, Marquette is all these things specifically to get money, power, and influence. With that out of the way, let's begin with the life and career of Marquette, the leader of this cult before his arrival to the YouTube scene. If you ask him, Marquette is many things.
Marquette Burton, the idol of James Bond, Fax Kellerman, Stephen A. Pimp, your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber.
Yeah, definitely not a narcissist. But if you ask the members of the SaSn, short for the Saint and Sinner Nation, they'll tell you Marquette is a tech entrepreneur who created technology in the same vein as Elon Musk, but of course just slightly less successful. A businessman with multiple different businesses from before his YouTube career and that he currently runs. A public speaker paid by the Chinese government, among other entities, thousands of dollars to speak publicly. A UC Berkeley graduate who graduated top of his class in one of the hardest courses in one of the most prestigious universities, all while being a covert gangster and an expert boxer with lethal hands. To me and you, we don't even have to know his history of manipulation, lying, alleged scams to know this isn't true. It just sounds too good for anyone really, but especially someone who no one's heard about until he made this cult, until he reached the YouTube scene. If you've done all these things, you should have some sort of name that we should be able to see. But I wasn't making a caricature of their beliefs or his beliefs. They'll actually tell you this. They believe all of this hook, line, and sinker. Luckily, I'm here to save the day and do what all of his followers fail to do, and it's ask the right questions and fact check. Why don't we start with his biggest claim to fame, shall we? His claims of owning and running a tech business. If you've even heard of this guy in passing, you've probably heard him speak of his tech business. He constantly speaks about it, but always makes sure to leave the details out of his business. He makes sure everything is more or less ambiguous. You might be thinking, okay, if he doesn't want to tell you how much he makes, that's fair. The man doesn't even say the name of his tech business. All he'll say is, I made an app. Tell me what app it is. If it's Angry Birds, case closed. We don't have to do any research because we can just look it up, see that you did it, and done. We know you're not a fraud. This is done purposely and with intent. He doesn't want you to research any of this and just take it at face value. But luckily, Marquette was rich and famous before YouTube, right? So surely, if I search him, I should find some info on his net worth, business, and other things, right? That's exactly what I did, and you'd probably be surprised to find out that I found nothing of note. But I did find a Forbes article. I can already hear his cult members typing. See, His Excellency was featured in Forbes. Peace to the Saints. Peace to the Saints. Peace to the Saints. Well, that's exactly what he wants you to do. To see the Forbes article and not read it. Because once you read it, you'll find out his name isn't even in the main article. He's just in the picture as a CTO.
But when people say, I've been in Forbes, things like that, this is what they're alluding to. They're trying to allude to the whole Fortune 500 nonsense, okay? But in actuality, the Forbes he's talking about was done by not a Forbes editor, but a Forbes former contributor. Now, if you guys may be asking, what is a former contributor? Well, we just got to highlight what that means. It means that the opinions expressed by Forbes contributors are their own. Now, I got to break that down again for you guys, right? Okay. A contributor isn't someone like an editor or someone who is actually working currently at Forbes, right? Where they would say something and you research it and you know it's concrete. Actually, if you really scroll all the way down, all right, you'll actually see where you can actually request her to do an article on you. So
he'd have you all believe the article was a Forbes 30 under 30 article about him and how he built some powerful technology used the world over to this day. In reality, it was a second business that he used prior investor money to attempt, which failed. He even states that he cashed out, but this business was never sold. How do I know? He vaguely spoke about it in one of his live streams. And like he always does, he bragged and embellished so the average cult member can believe it and won't look it up.
For the people who don't know. Now, here's the thing. At the time in which I was in Forbes about that business, I was also the CEO of another corporation that was older. So this was a newer company I started that grew so fast and was so cracking. Forbes did a spot on us. But here's the thing. Let me keep it player with you. And this is sharp. Shout out to the hustlers. Follow my moves. I am the North Star. I will show you how to get free.
Notice his language, his verbiage. I am the North Star. Follow my moves. I will show you how to be financially free. Let's see what he's talking about.
I'm the CEO of one corporation that has significant investment. If you invest into a corporation and the CEO, you definitely don't want them running two different corporations as CEO. You only want them running one corporation. So they're dedicating all their time, effort, and energy to making your money grow. But I had another idea that I knew was going to be successful and I couldn't wait on it. So what I did was this. I had a girl I was dating at the time, random white girl, no education from the middle of nowhere, no credentials, no nothing. I positioned her on paper as the CEO of this other corporation. Then I created the new product under this new corporation.
But since there are actual critical thinkers scattered throughout the internet, although few and far between, Duke and Don, one of the people sitting in the center roasted, fact-checked all of this. The worst part of it all is that this company is now dissolved and has nothing to show for it. I literally could find no information on it from the app, nothing. In the video, Marquette employs this tactic of creating a plausible idea that his business was sold for millions.
And that's why I tell you guys, I only talk about 1/3 of what I actually do, just so you can hate on that third. Let me tell you how boss I am, and this gonna hurt you. Look, angry man, trip on this. The company that's in Forbes, right? Which side note, anytime you see a company in Forbes and then you never hear about it again, just side note, that usually means that it got acquired or it got sold. You know, bigger corporation gobbled it up and they included it into what they're already doing under their brand or under a different name. That's usually what that means.
If you sold a business, wouldn't you just state it was sold? Why vague post about it and say typically X, Y, and Z happens? Again, this is intentional. His naive, dumb, or inexperienced fans will hear this, and since they don't know much about wealthy people and how they maneuver, business interactions, and general etiquette when it comes to things like that, they assume Marquette sold his thriving business for $3.5 million, and he's been living good and laughing easy ever since. If that were the case, a personality like his, a braggadocious, overconfident, narcissistic personality like his, would bring this fact up every live stream. That's an actual checkmate, so it would be a good idea to be bringing this up on stream. He's been called broke before, and he had nothing to show for it besides getting angry.
Just so you know, every girl sitting on this side of the table earns more money than him. Yeah.
Stop.
He's an imposter. He's been outed in the past.
he's mad about it,
He
and
basically
he's mad.
LARPs as a
Honestly,
rich guy on the internet.
If I was
And I
absolutely
just, on
poor, it
behalf
would mean
of
nothing.
all the girls,
It would mean nothing.
I think we all are in kind of an
That's
agreement that
amazing.
we don't really want to sit here and listen to someone who's basically a scam artist tell us what's wrong with our
Exactly. Yeah,
lives.
If you could just say, I sold my business for this much, look it up, you win. You're having arguments with guys like Adam22 about your business when you could have put it to rest by being transparent. But the reality is, he has nothing to show for it in the first place. If that's not enough, a successful company like his allegedly would have some sort of info on it being acquired by a bigger one. And even if that wasn't enough, why has all their social media been dead for years? So to sum it up, Marquette brags about how rich he is outside of YouTube, how successful he was. But if this is what he's talking about, he's bragging about a failed company. In business, you're gonna fail companies, you're gonna fall down, you're gonna scrape your knee a few times before being successful. We know this. The issue isn't the fact that he failed businesses, it's him bragging about it as if it's Apple or Amazon, lying by implying in an effort to get people to like his ideology and give him money. They need to see him as a big shot who can teach them the way to make money. That's why he does this. But let me not jump to any conclusions. He actually has another business, and even though he keeps everything vague, I've done some research on it, and it seems this one is more well known. We are talking about the Fletch app, an effortless attendance technology made by our Marquette Burton.
And he's here with us now to explain how this works. Marquette, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So explain what Fletch is. How does it work?
Fletch is a very simple technology. We use this long-range Bluetooth device.
This one is actually a really innovative and new company. I have to give credit where it's due because, wait a second, computer enhance. If that's your technology, Marquette, whose technology is this? It seems Apple stole Marquette's technology and they're passing it off as their own. The sinner mustn't stand for this. It looks like it's another lie. What a surprise. Marquette didn't make any innovative technology. He just slapped a logo on someone else's technology and tried to profit off that. Not once did he mention that he's using someone else's product. He could have at least tried to spin it like he's enhancing some product. Instead, he spins it like he made this himself and made the idea himself. The original item has no logo. The corny Fletch app logo was put on it by him. He made this whole sham up. He went on a third-rate news site that publishes videos literally every hour about anything you could think of, bought articles for himself and paraded around his drop-shipped item like it was God's gift to Earth. Okay, so we know it's not his company, but he could have still had a successful grift going. Just because it's not his doesn't mean he didn't make any money. So let's see how much was actually invested into his company. From the looks of it, he received a total of $250K from 3 investors, yet the company and app still failed. He was able to use grift on 3 people who actually gave him $250,000. Is it any wonder his lies work on his cult members? Essentially, the timeline is this guy faked the company as well as a product, tricked 3 investors, saw that his first scam was falling apart, made a new company with a puppet CEO so he could work on it, presumably using the money that he got from his first operation to fund his next operation that also fell to the ground and burned.
I'm positioned as the chief technology officer. I own 100% of the corporation. I own all of the stock. She's positioned as the chief executive officer. She owns 0% of the shares. She's a figurehead. So then when it's sold, I got all of the bag. But here's the thing. I was also able to keep my investors at bay because they weren't tripping because I wasn't the top dog in this other company. I was in a small role as a technologist. But if you know my background, I'm not a coder. I'm not a technologist. He's trying to point out that I was like nobody in this corporation when I was the whole puppet master, the whole founder, inventor, and the guy who cashed out the whole thing.
All in all, he successfully scammed his investors, the figurehead at the time, and then using that scam to scam his fan. I've heard of compulsive liars, but this may be the first time I've ever heard of a compulsive scammer. This man is selling nothing but dreams and lies. He likes to give himself all these titles. The Mr. Rogers of the internet, Attila the Hun.
It's the one and only, the big homie, Fax Kellerman, Stephen A. Pimp, your favorite YouTuber's favorite YouTuber, Attila the Hun, the warrior king of this YouTube thing, the crown prince of Iran, the idol of James Bond, Marquette Burton.
Other corny stuff like that. He's nothing more than a Congo dandy. For guys who don't know, the Democratic Republic of Congo is one of the 5 poorest countries in the world, but there's a phenomenon out there. Out of this country, there are a group of people known as the Congo Dandies, who peacock with flamboyant suits and expensive attire, while the average person in Congo makes less than 500 USD a year. The center has the same idea. Let me put on this unnecessary, extravagant attire when I don't need to. This extra outfit for the most remedial tasks like live streaming. This will make me look rich and sophisticated to naive and impressionable people. And to sell the idea that I'm part of the aristocracy. The sad thing is that to anyone who's not consumed by the charisma and rhetoric of this guy, it works against him. Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, did the exact same thing. He would front like he's been rich his whole life in the lap of luxury since he was a youngin', when in reality he was broke and renting before he blew up from berating women online and talking about being a high value man.
I've done nothing.
Marnie, can I speak, please? When the power bill spiked, you sent me communication after communication after communication, trying to make me responsible for it.
Not you responsible, the whole entire house responsible, Kevin. Kevin Samuels moving the cardboard again from out from under his car.
These guys who claim to have been rich and famous and successful prior to YouTube tend to be the opposite. I mean, does it make any sense? Why come on YouTube and speak about how much you don't need it and what you did before? You're trying to sell an idea. It's a smart formula these guys are using. Get online, pretend to be a businessman, and sell courses to become a businessman, and have that be your first successful business. Before we can get to Marquette's actions on YouTube, we need to delve into the cult as a whole and get a general view of the SaSn. This video isn't for the members. 9 out of 9, if you're gonna be paying this man to go to conferences, reciting vows and statements as if you're praying, you're too far gone. This is mostly for people outside looking in, trying to understand just how deep this is, and in the off chance they get a cult member or two to reevaluate their life, that'll be a bonus. So to illustrate this, take a look at the characteristics of a cult. We know no cult member will admit to being in a cult. They wouldn't be in it if they recognize that. We can't trust their word because they're quite literally not thinking straight. It's the same idea as when you have a battered woman. You can't just ask her, hey, is everything okay? You're getting your ass kicked all around your house. They're gonna tell you everything's fine and you're the one overreacting. So looking at the traits, how many does the SaSn and Marquette embody, you ask? All of them. We'll begin with number 1, authoritarian leadership, especially one that commands control, loyalty, and allegiance. This is exactly who the sinner is. To relate this back to the People's Temple, Jones was a master manipulator who skillfully demanded control over his followers without overtly stating his intention. Through his charismatic leadership, Jones cultivated a sense of trust and loyalty among his followers, making them far more susceptible to his influence. He manipulated their fears, insecurities, gradually eroding their boundaries. How does Marquette do this, you ask? Simple. For one, he's obviously the leader of the SaSn. He literally named his philosophy after himself, which if you don't know, is insanely narcissistic. Platoism and Pythagoreanism are both Greek ideologies, and though they're named after their founders, they were coined by historians. This dude is so full of himself, he said, shit, let me cut out the middleman, and named it after himself. Anyway, like him, Jones would never outright say, do what I say and think how I think, or you're not part of the cult. In fact, he says, be your own person. But how true is that? Jim never said you can never wear an afro. You must have my haircut. Or you can't like sushi because I like burgers. It's only superficial stuff. It's only superficial stuff that he doesn't care about. Ask Marquette if you can be gay and be part of the SaSn. Ask him if you can be a woman with multiple men and be part of the SaSn. One man and even 50 women is cool according to the SaSn law. No, there are some things you can and cannot do, and following the SaSn law and being obedient to him are 2 of those things. In fact, he wrote a book you should follow. You'd expect this book to be about the ideology itself or general guiding principles along the lines of The Art of Not Giving an F or self-help books just like that. Nope. His book that he suggests that you'll follow is an autobiography. So it's like my friend saying, hey man, I'm suffering from depression because I lost my house. And I give him a book about me called The Life of Don Ozzie. So obsessed with himself that it hurts. The next trait of a cult leader we'll be talking about is a claim to exclusive truths. This one is almost as easy to demonstrate. Just look at their website or watch any of his videos. He constantly talks about the Bible he created. It's not a big one. It's only 3 sentences, in fact.
Goes, of course, back to the 3-sentence Bible or the 3-sentence Quran, the 3-sentence Torah. Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. Just imagine.
Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. Pretty cool and pretty harmless if you have a preteen level of understanding of the world. First one, be yourself. What does this even mean? It's told to us so often, but this is your Bible. The real Bible is a collection of books telling you the most advantageous way of living, how to get closer to God, and detailing the life and times of Jesus Christ. Whether you believe it or not, that's what the Bible claims to do. But this Bible is to be followed. How about someone like Jeffrey Dahmer? Should he be himself? How about someone that the sinner hates? Someone who swings both ways. Should he be himself? Sometimes yourself needs change, improvement. Sometimes you need to not be yourself, honestly. Moving on to be good to yourself. Again, subjective and abstract. To a teenager or someone naive and impressionable, that sounds profound, sweet and short, right to the point. But playing video games to Marquette is a form of self-harm. He has a very rigid and specific idea of good. He's even against owning dogs as a principle. So that illustrates how what someone sees as healthy and good doesn't necessarily fall into what he would describe as good in his Bible. And finally, the most problematic one, be good to good people. This one is the most worthless statement of the whole book. What is a good person? I consider Marquette a horrible person. He'd probably consider me the same. He considers people who are actively trying to deride the SaSn as evil.
And what's worse is you have the demons and devils among us. Oh, they take the lies and run with it. And against someone like me,
some people view the man with a tiny mustache as a good person, and others view every black person, including him, as inherently bad. Jesus loves the Pope just as much as he loves a Satanist. The idea that Jesus taught that the sinner is clearly trying to take and in his eyes improve on is do unto others as you'd like done unto you. Instead, adding his own logically and philosophically failing caveat. Don't get me wrong, I understand why he added that. The idea is clearly so you don't get taken advantage of, but the point still stands. This Bible is nothing more than a slogan for children, and the underlying message is this Bible isn't for everyone. It's for the SaSn. Be yourself. Replace that with be a saint. Be good to yourself. Replace that to be good to yourself if you're a saint. And finally, be good to good people. Replace that with be good to saints. There's a clear in-group and out-group. Saints know people who don't subscribe to these ideas are not good people, so they actively try and distance themselves and keep their closeness to a minimum. On the topic of religion, Marquette uses it expertly to get people to convert to his religion. He will never outright say Christianity is false or Islam is false or deride any religion like that. What he will do is characterize the religion falsely, put himself in the conversation as someone to follow as well as follow that religion. He'll talk some light praise to the religion, followed by a caricature of it, and then placing himself as the best of both worlds. Ideology isn't in direct contradiction with the Abrahamic religions. It doesn't say you being part of the SaSn supersedes Islam or Christianity. They work in tandem, you see? The deen has been infiltrated. You don't have to leave Islam, but join me. Christianity is used in the wrong ways. You don't have to leave Christ, but join me. Don't go to church, don't go to the mosque. Go to my Sunday services instead. Instead of learning to give back to the poor and help them out from that silly old Bible, you can go ahead and read my Bible and learn that poor people are poor for a reason and we shouldn't help them. There are poor people who are poor for a reason, just like there are rich people who are rich for a reason. Hard work and smart grinding. But there are others who are rich because of handouts, lottery winnings, being born into wealth, complete and utter blind luck. In the same vein, there are poor people who are poor because they're bad people. But there's also people who have been dealt a bad hand, such as mentally and physically disabled people. There is nuance. You might be asking, why would he care to do this? Because one, men of faith, whether it be religious or otherwise, are some of the most devout people. Think about vegans. They'll go to war over that burger you're eating. If I can get someone with a deep belief onto my side, I can likely get them to believe in what I'm saying at the same level. That's why he does so. Specifically Muslim men. Not only does it coincide a little bit with his ideology, for instance, both condone violence in certain settings, multiple wives, more patriarchal, things like that. Muslim men are the most devout followers of any idea in the world, literally willing to die for their cause. So he's smart. He can't alienate that subset of people from his group. He must have them be part of his cause. Like pretty much every major religion, they tell you to abstain from bad things. Islam, you need to do good deeds to outweigh your bad deeds, so hopefully you get to heaven. Christianity, Jesus paid for your sins, and out of love, you're supposed to try and be as Christ-like as possible. But the sinner's philosophy is to embrace your sinful nature when you see fit, or when it coincides with his bidding, or for the good of the SaSn. It's not about being a good person all the time. It's about being a good person when it's convenient and being a good saint. And we're not talking about being a saint like St. Francis or St. Augustine. There's a reason I've been calling him the sinner the entire video. It damn near feels sacrilegious to call him anything but that. The next one is one of the most nefarious and diabolical tactics that the sinner uses, and that is maintaining that they're the ones with the truth and that the outside world poses a risk and even death to its members. While doing research on this is one of the most recurring themes that the sinner uses to control his cult. Everyone is against us, from your church to your government and ostensibly all non-saints.
you are being oppressed by your government. If you don't realize it, you're just not very intelligent.
He would never claim to have received divine revelations from God like Jim Jones. The sinner would have you believe that if he's not saying, I am God, worship me, it's not a cult.
Cults are about the leader having sex with your wife or doing weird things to your kids or thinking that they're God. When I tell you, whatever religion you have come to me with, Christianity...
Newsflash, buddy. We're not all as naive as SaSn. One thing that he did do is that he would manipulate crisis constantly. If you got your news from him, you think it's doomsday every day. Every crisis, or possible crisis, any news he can use to scare people into joining the SaSn, he uses it. The same tactic Jones did with his cult. Jones manipulated real-world events to reinforce his narrative of the persecution and danger that they were constantly in. For instance, he exaggerated incidents of harassment or surveillance by outside entities to justify his control over the group. He would use these incidents to rally his followers and reinforce their belief in his leadership as their protector. When people would check on Jonestown, you know, because it's a crazy cult that isolates family members, instead of Jones saying, "Hey guys, people are rightfully investigating us," he'll tell his members that they're being persecuted and use that as proof that they have the truth.
I tell you, I don't care how many trees you hear, I don't care how many angry cries. Death is 1,000,000 times preferable to 10 more days of this life. If you knew what was ahead of you, if you knew what was ahead of you, you'd be glad to be stepping over. If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace. We've took 1,000 people, so we don't like to know the world.
Level, and that's why I say appreciate me while I'm here. You see, because certain levels of cooperation the government will get out of me, and there's certain levels of cooperation that the government will not get out of me as a man, and there will become a point where they ask me to bend over and take it up the rear end, and I won't be going for it. And if that means that that'll be the last time you see me or they see me.
Does this remind you of anyone? Call out his cult and you're a broke hater. It's not because you guys have all the makings of a cult and you're a lifetime scammer. No, it's because we don't want to see you win, and furthermore, we know the SaSn is the truth and the light, and we're devils, so we hate that. Jones also instilled fear in his followers by warning them of the persecution they would face if they left the People's Temple or questioned his authority. He often cited examples of government agencies, the media, and other groups conspiring against them, portraying the outside world as a hostile or dangerous place. For example, he claimed that law enforcement agencies were plotting to destroy the People's Temple and harm its members. I wonder who that reminds me of.
Garbage. It's not a racial thing, it's a corrupt government thing. The government and the police force is extraordinarily corrupt. You get nothing back. They are oppressing you, they are controlling you, you have no rights or freedom. That's what we're actually dealing with. We're in revolutionary times. If you work for this government,
Not a cult, guys, not a cult. Don't forget that. The more I say it, the more true it is. Before we move on to the next one, I can hear it now. The SaSn and SaSn sympathizers alike are already commenting, "Hey man, this is awfully dramatic. Jones said they should be willing to lay down their life for him. All the sinners saying that he's willing to die for them. That's it." Well, that's exactly what Jones implored to eventually get his people to be willing to drink the Kool-Aid once that time came. Jones exploited the fear and insecurities of his followers, instilling a sense of impending doom and persecution from external forces. He would talk about how much he loathed the world and quote-unquote persecution he was facing, and he slowly introduced the concept of dying for your beliefs to his followers, initially framing it as a noble sacrifice or an act of loyalty to the cause. This is what is known as gradual desensitization. Jim Jones also often presented himself as willing to die for his followers and their beliefs. He frequently used rhetoric to reinforce his image as a selfless leader who was dedicated to the well-being and salvation of his followers. Sounds a lot like our friend the sinner here. Jones emphasized the idea of sacrifice and martyrdom. Jones' statement about being willing to die for his followers and their cause served to further manipulate and control his followers. He presented himself as a martyr figure, thus strengthening his hold he has over their loyalty and devotion, convincing them that he was their ultimate protector and savior. This rhetoric also contributed to the atmosphere of fear and obedience within the People's Temple. Members believed that their leader was prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice for them, and thus they should be able to do the same. You see, when it comes to cults, there's levels to it. No one's gonna have a t-shirt that says, "Hey, I'm a cult leader" on their chest. And they're not gonna start their services with "Welcome to the cult of Jim Jones, in which I want your full devotion or you'll be exiled." If that was the case, the People's Temple wouldn't have been a thing. There's the odd cult that outright pretty much says that they're a cult. You know, the cults in which the guy actively claims to be God or the second coming, etc. But those ones are obvious. People are just worshiping a figure, no one's taking it too serious or is willing to die for it. Now, I'm not saying the sinner's end goal is a mass exit, nor am I accusing him of any crimes whatsoever. I want to make that very clear. I think he actually just enjoys the power and stroking of his ego. But I am saying this: the biggest and most dangerous cults are the covert ones. The ones that don't say, "Hey, welcome to my cult." Instead, they say, "Hey, welcome to the family, the Manson family." Or, "Hey, welcome to Jonestown, home of the People's Temple." Or, "Hey, welcome to the Saint and the Sinner Nation. Peace to the saints."
Peace to the saints. I want to welcome everyone to...
The next one is that the cult separates themselves socially. This one is obvious. You can hear him say the SaSn or nothing many times in live streams. He won't deny this. He actually stands by this idea. After that is the cult practicing elitism. If it wasn't already painfully obvious, here's further proof.
That we are the leadership class because we're smarter, stronger, more principled. We will be able to rule over the multitude, but that doesn't mean we need to be tyrannical or we need to be overly self-interested. And I've observed certain folks like trying to grab at attention.
We're gonna rule over everyone, but we'll be nice about it. I promise you, no one with any leadership qualities is paying monthly to be part of the SaSn or go to these cornball getaways. Number 6 is that they have their own terminology, phrases, symbols, rules, and moral standard that they even may want the world to adapt. Well, for the first few, it's obvious. Peace to the saints. For the good of the SaSn. The creed of the SaSn. 3-sentence Bible. All that corny shit was made up by the sinner for the SaSn. All their rules are plastered on their website, and if you can't read, he spams it every time he opens up a live session. And finally, they have their fair share of symbols too. The colors in the logo is literally called SaSn Red. They have their own uniform they're meant to wear, obviously purchasable on his website, of a black shirt with red trim. And finally, number 7, the cult leader maintains control over their members by using certain forms of mental manipulation. They remind their group that if they stick to the group's beliefs or teachings, they will get special rewards. Every point leading up to this point bolsters this one. If it wasn't evident in the sinner telling his goons they'll be ruling over the rest of us, one of the biggest draws to the SaSn, I say draws like that because this movement is worthless as hell, is a chance of making money through it. That's half the reason the sinner lies about his background so much and he brags about his wealth. Of course, he's a narcissist. He literally can't help himself but brag. But in the same vein, he needs to as a means of portraying wealth. What's $1,000 to join the SaSn when you're gonna make $1 million through being part of this global movement for men? You see how this all ties together and works in tandem? I've illustrated the character of the sinner, scarily similar to that of Jim Jones. Both individuals possess charismatic personalities that draw followers to them. They use charm, persuasion, and manipulation to gain the trust and loyalty of their followers. Marquette will teach you how to get rich. Just donate to him and become a member. What's $1,000 to you when you're guaranteed to make so much more? Both individuals are obsessed with influence and power. They exploit and exploited their followers financially, pressuring followers to donate large sums of money, promising spiritual rewards or salvation in return for one, and promising tons of money back, women, and reaching the upper echelons of society through the SaSn. You guys get the general picture of this guy. Now, let's dive into the members. Funnily enough, a great way to know if a cult is a cult is by looking at the actions and thinking of its members. Members of a cult often exhibit behaviors characterized by extreme devotion to a charismatic leader or ideology, often at the expense of critical thinking and personal autonomy. These individuals may isolate themselves from outside influences, adhering rigidly to the group's beliefs and practices. Cult members also engage in activities such as recruitment efforts, financial contributions beyond their means, and they often promote social isolation from non-members, encouraging intense bonding among members and creating an us versus them mentality, i.e. SaSn or nothing, your government is oppressing you, the skittle guzzling mafia is after your children, etc, etc. The only way to get something done is to be in the SaSn.
To be a part of something. Yes, because the law is not applied equally, never was, and in this age it's applied oh so unfair.
Wherever the sinner goes, the SaSn is sure to follow, and not in a hey we're a fan of X YouTuber way, but in a this man is the most important person in the entire world way. Whatever upsets Marquette upsets the sinners, and whatever Marquette feels is disrespect, degenerate or wrong, the sinners feel the exact same way. Recently on one of these cornball podcasts, the sinner made an appearance, and for context, the sinner hates when his name is mispronounced. It's pronounced Marquette Burton, but often people pronounce it Marquette. Any well-adjusted person would understand, okay, I have a name with a different plausible pronunciation, and I also am a complete nobody. So if someone mispronounces my name, it's to be expected and it's probably harmless. For Marquette, he wants to have a name, and desperately so. So when someone doesn't know his name off rip or study him before interacting with him, it hurts his soul. And in return, it hurts the SaSn too. So much so that this dude sent in money just to correct the host for mispronouncing the leader's name. And it didn't stop there. He said they're not to be trusted because of this.
And show the bills. Yeah. Columbia to Malaysia says, Michael, Mike, and Rolo, what the heck? How on earth do you not know how to pronounce nor spell Marquette Burton's name? Every video pronounces his name. You can't be that trusted.
We can't be trusted.
Apparently.
You don't say names.
Sorry,
I was confused, but yeah, it's Marquette. I said it. I thought, I'm pretty sure I said it.
It's French, right?
What's your middle name?
Well, let that be a lesson to you guys.
To further stress how much he and the SaSn hate his name not being anything of note, just 3 weeks ago he made a community post informing people on how to spell his name and how to pronounce it. The cherry on top is when you see one of his henchmen in the comments type with a smooth Q, just so it's clear. I can only imagine the super chatter mad as hell, sweating, pissing, and vomiting at the host saying the sinner's name wrong. This is so sad, it's funny, man. Later in the podcast, another SaSn member chimed in to recruit on live, claiming that the sinner has given his own members thousands of dollars.
Burton, the saint is the only person I know in all of internet history that has put over $250,000 in his supporters' pockets. Join the SaSn Saint and the Sinner Nation to become part of that. Okay. W. We have here again.
Make sure you guys join the movement to make money as well. Further stressing how much wealth and the facade of having been a rich aristocrat plays a huge part in the recruitment of new, naive, and down on their luck financially members. They seem to be the ones most primed to give their last $1,000 to the sinner to hopefully take them to the promised land, and the sinner knows this. In reality, all you get is access to a Discord and a few exclusive videos of the sinner telling his player stories, which are stories of him picking up women. I'll say it again, it's so sad it's funny. So you see, Marquette is smart to naive and or dumb people. That's not to say every one of his followers are both. Most are likely naive, not well traveled, or not well read, and are probably looking for someone or something to follow. This is evident in him quoting the same books and the same quotes from the same people constantly. Two of these books he has read and loves to quote is The Art of War by Sun Tzu and The 48 Laws of Power. As a result, he's deluded himself into thinking his YouTube career is some sort of war he's waging on the YouTube scene. And more specifically, in his niche of men's self-improvement. I'm actually torn on whether he actually is so insane he thinks YouTube is deeper than it is, or if he's just using the front of being the warrior king of YouTube to justify attacking every creator he can. I'd bet it's somewhere in the middle. Anyway, with this mindset, as soon as he began doing YouTube, he began attacking literally every creator in this niche. From the likes of Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate, some of the most famous people in the self-improvement space, to lesser known people like Modern Life Dating and Duke and Don. Like, man, you're a YouTuber for God's sake. You're not fighting the good fight against an enemy team. All these tactics are extra and pretentious. Maybe I'm just part of the evildoers trying to deride the SaSn. Who knows? But for the longest time when he was rising up in the YouTube, it seems everyone of any size would ignore his attacks. Rightfully so. Who would pay attention to someone who stands to gain everything and you stand to gain nothing by addressing him? Until one day he attacked the streamer Destiny. As we know, Marquette believes he's smarter than everyone. He believes he knows how to save the world, and I'm not even being hyperbolic here. So with his arrogance, he hopped on the stream with Destiny and of course began his MO, relentless attacks. Sparing you the details, the important thing to note is that Marquette brought up Destiny's personal life as well as his schooling.
We know his fans have notified him. He's so like hungry for that. He's hungry for that clout. I'll give it to him, dude. Don't worry.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, pretty good. Were you talking about my school? Is that what was going on in here?
We're just warming up. We wanted to get some background on you because there's a funny thing going on the internet. Your fanatics, they deluded themselves into thinking that you're brighter than you are. You see, because we saw in your own bio, you're making excuses for why you didn't complete a basic degree, a very easy degree at a third-tier university. Reads, quote, I went to the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And before we carry on, we're both clear that this is a third-tier university. This is a very low-ranking university, right?
It's a state school in my state. I
don't have to hide from, like, for example, let's look at it on the other side.
Well, no. How about this?
You said to me, Marquette, did you go to Berkeley and get a degree? I would say, sir, I did that in 3 years. Yes, I did. If you said, then did you go to Johns Hopkins University and take a master's degree while working full-time? I'd say, yes, that's correct. So it's like the same thing. I wouldn't have like a long story. I'd just say, yes, that's correct, or no, that's incorrect. So
the reason being is because he loves to talk about his own personal life and his school. Marquette is one of those people who will ask you, what did you get on your test? Knowing or hoping it's a bad mark just so he can talk about how he aced his without even trying. One of those people who everyone around him can see right through besides him, and well, in this case, his cult members. Typically when people bring up their school, and they also talk about what they got as a degree. He no doubt went to a prestigious school, but again, say with me now, he's lying by implying. With all his talk of tech businesses, successful startups, and money, you'd think he went to school for software engineering, law, or something, you know, that's worth bragging about. No, he got his degree in teaching. Literally one of the most common degrees to get and the default degree for someone who doesn't know what they want to do. Nothing wrong with this, by the way. I have friends who are teachers and I respect the hell out of good teachers. Most are bad, but that's a topic for another day. What I'm doing right now is using the logic he'd use on someone like me, an enemy of the SaSn. If I said I'm a teacher, he'd call me a brokey. Meanwhile, he'd be using his teaching degree as we speak if he didn't luck out with YouTube and his cult. Anyways, as a result, Destiny later dug deeper into Marquette and who he says he is. And of course, found out most of what I touched on earlier, but specifically found out about his NFT rug pull.
This is the app that he says that he like invented for some company they work for, Fletch. It hasn't even been downloaded 1,000 times. I bet most of these downloads are probably just from people working on the project, seeing if it works on other devices. Like, this guy's whole life is a scam. He did a rug pull for $2,000. Limited supply SaSn coin is now available for purchase. He announced
a rug pull, for those of you who don't know, is a scam where a cryptocurrency or NFT developer hypes up a project to attract investors, only to suddenly shut down or disappear, taking all the investor money with them. Marquette claims to have made NFTs, specifically from the command line, whatever the hell that means.
Long story short, I hosted a conference. I showed people how to create NFTs from scratch, from the command line, little buddy.
From the command line? Please, can you tell me how? I want to know how to create an NFT from the command line. Which command line?
Create NFTs from scratch. We also explained the business model behind NFT.
Yet couldn't explain simple details without sounding pretentious as hell or dodging the question. Many people have accused him of having an NFT scam, and every time he denies it, inserts doubt, obfuscates, and insults the person. So I said, let me do my own research. For my own digging, there was a coin made by Marquette, the SaSn coin. That coin is currently sitting at a value of $0. So knowing this, I knew he made a coin, which he wouldn't admit to. Taking a look through the Wayback Machine, you can see he actually announced this coin on his YouTube. So he did promote that coin he made, and he sold one. Interesting. You can even see the members in the comments soaring out over their future loss of money. This is only my third documentary of an internet personality, and I'm already seeing a trend from all these videos. How do people not see right through this guy? Anyway, if we take a look here at SaSn, we can see that the coin was at one point around 2K, and then immediately crashed to 0. All spending within a couple of days. If you look up a rug pull graph, it'll literally look identical to this. Textbook definition of a rug pull. And before his cult members say it wasn't him, the wallet is traced right back to his address with all the transactions and with his own NFTs in them. The sinner not only lies and scams his audience, he tries to do the same with the general public. None of this would be public or exposed had he kept his hands to himself and not attacked everyone for clout and in the long-term money. You can't be punching everyone and expect to never be punched back. This wasn't the only time attacking someone backfired. Although that definitely was the worst, his attacking plans also backfired in the case of Kevin Samuels. Now I must preface this by saying KS wasn't a good guy, he was very clearly a bully to women, and he wasn't a good friend of the people around him.
Me, Donovan, that is my time slot. He said this to me. He said, that is my time slot. I said, Kevin, I said, you're one of my best friends. You don't own any time slots. But Kevin's last words to me were, we're still friends, but for me, no mas. And he hung up the phone. That's the last time I ever talked to Kevin Samuels. I lied to you guys. I did. The reason I lied to you guys is because I didn't want anybody to think, I didn't want anybody to speak poorly about Kevin. Yeah, there were grumblings of this and that, but, you know, I told you guys that Kevin kept me in the loop and that Kevin didn't do any of that stuff, man. Kevin didn't do any of that stuff. As soon as Kevin hit 150,000 subscribers, he never really had anything to do with me again. Not on the air anyway. It's not like, and listen, man, Kevin didn't know me anything. He didn't know me anything. But goddamn, man. Like Kevin, like I'm the guy who had Kevin Samuels on the most.
But that's still your pirate crew. You might not all be stand-up guys, but you gotta stand up for your guys, you know? Like I said before, Marquette attacked KS before his passing, and he made amazing points. Seriously, I couldn't even agree more with what he said.
Take a look at his LinkedIn profile. Here's the kicker. He hasn't even had a proper job. Look on his LinkedIn. 2 of the companies don't even have profile photos because they're fake companies. I'm shocked it's still alive. You could tell he's an old. And when he worked for the company, he didn't even have a high-ranking position. He didn't even do much in sales. So where does he get off giving business advice to young people? Hurts my heart. So if someone comes to me...
Kevin Samuels was a grifter before he became the godfather of the red pill. He used to be broke. Like Marquette said, he didn't figure it out until around the average age a person would be thinking about retirement. And he literally got lucky off of YouTube and bullying single moms and repeating the same talking points that everyone says now. So in regard to this, he actually had a point. Add in the fact that he's talking about business and how to be successful when he doesn't know the first thing about having a business and being successful. Kevin Samuels deserved to be called out. The only thing is, neither did Marquette. He had almost the exact same storyline, except he hit YouTube earlier and in a different way. The next big attack was aimed at the head of a red pill guru, MLD. Side note, the red pill is like a pirate crew. None of these guys have much morals and they're constantly stabbing each other in the back, but MLD was invited on after they both insulted each other through YouTube. In the phone call prior to the fiasco, you can see the sinner actively manipulating him.
If you're calling me like, hey, I prefer you don't do the video, my answer to you is, you got it, not an issue. If you're coming in peace, hey bro, I'd prefer you don't make a video talking shit about me. I got you, it's not an issue, we'll can it there. If you're calling like, hey, I'll sue you or I'll do X, Y, and Z, I'm a motherfucking savage. And I will say, my dear boy, you sue the shit out of me and you make every claim you can. And I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna make sure that you regret every second of your life. But if it's, I think it'd be fucking hilarious if one day we get together and do a stream together. I think it would, you know, shock a lot of people. Let's have some fun. Let's do that one day. I'm wishing you much success with everything that you got going on right now.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not about to start a GoFundMe for the likes of MLD, but this is actually a high level of sociopathy. To tell someone everything's good, to make peace over the phone call and the whole time be planning an assault on them when they come on stream, there's a reason he recorded it, and that's just to illustrate how Machiavellian this dude is. Anyway, when he got on stream, he accused the sinner of creating a rug pull, and it didn't end well at all.
Coin still operating, yes or no?
Tell us. Tell us.
I don't know. Is the coin operating?
You have 3 minutes. Explain the scam.
That's all the information I have.
You idiot. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead. Tell us the scam.
I'm done.
No, really. You have 3 minutes. Explain the scam. I want to hear about it. I want to know.
I just told you.
I could give you and the whole internet does not.
So you're just trying to make me look bad. That's what this is. This is not a dialogue. This is like you trying to frame yourself as like a superior person.
Oh, I'm appalled. I'm appalled. Because if that was the case, I would have mentioned that you have liposuction. I didn't even mention that.
I'm not hiding that. Where have you seen me hiding the fact of that?
If that was the case, I'd mention that you have hair plugs.
Yeah. Where do you see me hiding that?
If that was the case, I'd mention that you have fake teeth.
Yeah. And
where have I hit? If I was trying to make myself superior to you, I would mention that you got fake teeth, fake hair, and a fake body. You're basically a Colombian. You're a Colombian.
This is a TMZ shit. I thought, dude, on the phone. Listen, bro, that's some fake snake shit you did, bro. On the phone,
you are pulling some fake.
The sinner is obsessed with clout, fame, adoration, and money. The sinner not only lies and scams his audience, he tries to do the same with the general public. This narcissistic cornball bought a fake BBC documentary about himself.
About him on his channel. Are you ready?
We leave Jomo Kenyatta Airport. Marquette's mobile rings. The chief of police is phoning to welcome Mr. Burton to Nairobi, sharing that an armed guard will be waiting in the morning to escort Marquette wherever he wishes to go. It's a mystery as to how such a young man has so many extraordinary connections around the planet. Marquette Devon is the real-life James Bond.
I know, you thought it couldn't get worse, but trust me, it's not even done yet. As you watch these clips of him, just really take in the fact that this man is writing bold-faced lies about himself. Marquette Devon is a real-life James Bond. This video reads like a parody of itself, as if someone asked an AI bot to generate a video that makes a caricature of someone with delusions of grandeur and who is obsessed with himself.
It's just that Marquette Devon Burton is enchanting and bold and kind. He is an enigmatic figure, a businessman and a boxer, an author, a stoic, and a poet, and above all, a philosopher, a leader in reforming global human culture. He's written a 3-sentence Bible.
The sad part is, this is actually who he is, and almost sadder, he thought people would see this and be awestruck. I don't have much hope for the SaSn, but even they had to have been cringing at this shit. If I didn't know so much about this guy right now, and this was the first video I saw on him, I'd 100% believe it was all a joke that I fell for. But this is the world he lives in. This is the leader of the leadership class. Right. In the end, he ended up changing the title from BBC World Leaders to just World Leaders, and then he deleted the video out of shame. I tried to find it, but it's even deleted off his Patreon.
So originally, I don't, there's a way to look this up, but like, apparently they made him change it. He originally had this YouTube video titled as BBC coverage or BBC Emerging World Leaders Profile. And then they made him change the title because obviously it's not a BBC thing. But this is Les Ruse, no? It's all fake. He's an actual scam artist.
The rug pull was only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this guy and his predatory behavior when it comes to finance. But to drive this point home, we need to look at what it takes to become a member of the SaSn. No, not the uniform you need, or the training they give you, the price. This isn't about changing lives like he pretends it to be. It's about having followers, fame, notoriety, while getting paid at the same time.
That it's okay? It's not.
Why are you talking while I'm talking?
Because I'm telling you that you can't continue
But don't
to
talk while I'm talking.
Question, I'm asking you to answer
You're being
it.
really aggressive. I don't think I like you.
It.
I don't think I like you. We'll head out.
Okay.
And is this your business card?
That's my card.
Thank you. And Matthew, next time we encounter one another, I hope it's more respectful. Okay. But by then you'll have a sense of who I am.
Okay.
Because right now
I'm just. Tell me who you are?
Right now I'm just a stranger to you, right?
You want to tell me who you are?
Right now I'm just a stranger. You see, and I always know before you know who you're talking to, you should think about how you talk.
Okay.
Especially when you're so aggressive.
Okay. So I'm just letting you know that.
I already told you that we're gonna head out. So
Okay, don't tell me to shut up, okay?
Don't create a problem for yourself, because you can't create a problem for me. There's no problem you can create for me.
There's no problem.
But there's an infinite number of problems I can create for you. I didn't tell you to shut up. I am not a passive aggressive man.
What was this?
I'm not a passive aggressive man.
that
If I tell you to shut up, I'll just look you in your face and say, Matthew Dubenmeyer?
Yes, sir.
German? I'll say, Matthew Dubenmeyer, shut up. I don't have to be passive aggressive.
He actually thought this made him look good. This video is still up on his channel. He's proud of it. I truly implore you to watch the full video of anything I've shown here, from his live streams to his videos to anyone who's fallen victim to this guy's videos. I'm not taking anything out of context. He's truly this manipulative. The man had a mental breakdown at the win because they didn't respect him in his pimp coat. And in return, he basically threatens him and says that soon he will know who he is. For one, I highly doubt that. And if he even did find out who you are, he's gonna feel even more justified in his decision, no doubt. Again, just one more point in favor of this guy only caring for money, fame, and celebrity. Look at his Patreon, for example. To even get the base level of membership, it's $31 a month. That might not seem too bad, but to compare, a great channel when it comes to video essays, one that I can only hope to get to the level of one day, is that of H-Bomber Guys. We're talking insanely researched and well thought out, scripted and executed videos. In his first tier Patreon, which is 10 times less expensive than the Sinner's Patreon, you get exclusive videos, behind the scenes things, Discord access, and some pretty good value. And if you're a fan of these videos, that can take sometimes months to a year to make, what's $3 for extra content? In contrast, the Sinner's Patreon, the first tier has only 2 videos a week about women and personal improvement, no video requests, and oh yeah, I might never even respond to you. Buddy, if I'm paying $30 to you monthly and the only value I'm getting is 2 videos, which are mostly videos you private after live streaming on YouTube, I'm gonna need a bit more than no guaranteed direct messages. But to be fair, I do get access to Discord for the low price of $1,000. Whereas I get the Discord community from H-Bomber literally for $3. But fine, let's pretend the Patreon wasn't so horrible. Let's look at his merch. For this one, we will compare that of PewDiePie's, one of the biggest YouTubers on the platform, so he could sell a cup of piss and it would probably be bought at a high rate. Looking at his merch, you can see it isn't just drop shipped BS with his logo on it. It's clearly designed with time and effort, as well as actually being well thought out. I can get high quality socks for $9 from a very famous YouTuber. I can also see the clothing actually being modeled and worn by real people. The collection is cohesive and it makes sense. To sum it up, the clothing brand has a soul. It's clear the customer isn't just $1 to PewDiePie, and it's more or less deeper than getting the most money out of you while giving the least quality and effort. Let's take a look at the Sinner shop, shall we? Far less notable person, but he clearly does have some money from YouTube, so his shop should have some similar effort, right? Well, at first glance, the site took no effort. Not only is it bland and soulless, it's made off of Creator Spring. It doesn't even have its own domain, but all that is secondary. I mean, the main thing is the clothing itself, so let's take a look at that. We can see here that the Sinner sells everything that you can imagine, from drinkware to pillows to things for pets, which he's staunchly against. Looking at the actual apparel he has, it's literally all just drop-shipped items from China. There's even a shirt with his literal face on it you can buy. Imagine being someone who buys this and worse yet wears it. Just to reiterate how appalling this is, his prices are all higher than PewDiePie's, despite his clothes coming from a factory in China with no expense for modeling the items and no designers being paid to design these items. PewDiePie has all of the above and his clothes are made in Canada, which obviously is more expensive to produce than if you're getting it off Alibaba or something like that. I mean, for God's sake, why are your dropship socks $35? And for the small price of $113, I can buy the SaSn athletic shoes that'll probably break my ankle in because they're not athletic shoes at all, and they were not made with athletes in mind. And then after I'm done that, I can buy some SaSn soap to wash off the blood off my ankles. And if I'm feeling a little bit spontaneous, I can buy my girl a Negro horror shirt. Look man, the underlying motif here revolves around profound narcissism and self-absorption. While self-love and appreciation are definitely healthy, the Sinner's obsession with himself has distorted his perception of reality. His fixation on his own image is so strong that it demands others to mirror his obsession through the SaSn. Almost every action this guy takes reveals a severe disconnect from reality and who he and the SaSn thinks he is. You can see this in his inability to accept he's not famous, not a world leader, his need for constant validation that he's changing the world, his anger towards people who don't believe his ideas, his lack of understanding of nuance in the world. Everything is seen through the lens of the SaSn. You're wrong and I'm right. And not just that, you're evil. The government is as well. The tale of the saint and the sinner is something of a modern day Bernie Madoff and Jim Jones combined. While the SaSn is a modern day People's Temple, the sinner, a nobody in life who always had ideas of living in luxury, tried multiple times to get to that place, self-admittedly selling dope and failed businesses with all the tellings of scam artistry, finally gets his big break in the YouTube scene, portraying himself as already rich to get rich, and it worked like a charm. Now he is generally where he's always wanted to be, rich with people worshiping him. I know I said at the start I'd avoid giving this guy his praises where they're due, but he does have some good qualities. He's very clearly well read, at least in a few books. He knows how to capture an audience, that much is clear. But his biggest value add to all of us is showing your brain on narcissism. It's such a potent drug that the man buys suits just to look more important than he is. Helicopter rides to take pictures in to seem richer than he is. Rewrote his whole history to seem bigger than he is, and paid what we can only imagine to be thousands on articles, interviews, BBC world leader documentaries, just to stroke his own ego and distorted view of himself. The most critical part to look at in all of this is that none of it worked. Sure, he got his money, and in his own little echo chamber, he's literally second to God. I mean, the SaSn would probably die for this man. But outside of that, whose respect does he have? No man or woman with actual critical thinking skills will buy for a second that this man has done what he claims to have done. He reeks of fake because of how much he tries to look real. Relentless pursuit of self-aggrandizement. He shows us all the toxic allure of narcissism in a way that no one I've covered so far has or even can. It's a destructive force capable of distorting reality and eroding genuine connection. The sinner is Exhibit A. His extravagant displays of wealth and fabricated narratives serve as a stark reminder of the hollow emptiness that accompanies a life built on deceit and manipulation. Despite his attempts to make us all believe such a grandiose persona, the truth remains glaringly evident to everyone outside of the SaSn. Authenticity cannot be bought, and genuine respect can't be manufactured. No matter how many times you repeat you don't need YouTube, that you've been rich since you've graduated university, it just doesn't work, and if anything, it works in the opposite way than intended. In reflecting on this cautionary tale, let's not only recognize the pitfalls of narcissism, let's also reaffirm the timeless virtues of humility, integrity, and genuine connection. I hope you guys enjoyed the third video on my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you've watched this far. You clearly enjoy video essays, and more importantly, you seem to have enjoyed mine. This brings me to the actual end of the video. Some of you may have seen this video before, whether you're part of the cult or not. It's very ironic how the sinner claims to love free speech and that his rights are being attacked because he spreads propaganda and is running a cult. But all that goes out the window when I criticize him. Anyways, I was planning on only making one video, but after he made me go through the whole rigmarole of fighting the copyright claim he levied against me, which YouTube obviously sided with me for because, you know, it's completely fair use, I'm going to be making multiple follow-up videos. Infiltrating the cult, reading book reviews of the cult literature, more documentaries like you know I do, and with the quality that I consistently have. And unfortunately for the sinner, with the depth and the research that I consistently have. For those who wanted to watch this video earlier, know that Mr. Rogers of the internet striked it down for copyright because YouTube's content ID system is insanely broken. I won that battle, but just to be sure, I removed any clips that he could theoretically use to abuse the system. Again, it's so ironic how the cult members were telling me in the original video that all I have to do is ask the sinner and he'll have me on to debate. Yeah, not with the info I have here, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Much more videos to come. I'm bored of the sinner for now, so stay tuned for different people, but trust and believe. We ain't done with it. I'm on him like white on rice on a paper plate in a snowstorm after this. Again, subscribe and peace.